As the new year starts, I thought it would be fun to sit down and think about my game plans for the next couple months. First, I wanted to talk briefly about Stalker 2. I was really looking forward to this release at the end of November. While the second half of 2024 ended up being very busy for a variety of reasons, the gaming time I did have was largely spent in the zone, wandering around and getting a sense of the game. I had a great time, and in my first 5 to 10 hours, I was pretty surprised how critical early reviews had seemed, even if that was largely focused on technical issues. Playing on day one, I really didn't run into substantial bugs, and I was really impressed by the visuals, the environment, some of the narrative elements, and the way the game replicated the immersion and sense of place the series is famous for. However, before long, the compromises and/or failings in the combat AI and the world simulation started to become more and more obvious. Ultimately, I spent 20 plus hours with the game, and hardly got particularly far in the story progression. I remain eager to play more, but with the developers being so active in patching already, I'm also not in a huge rush to spend a great deal more time when I know further additions and changes are coming. I'll definitely be back to Stalker 2 in a big way at some point, but for now, just checking in here and there to keep up with changes and see if the game can ultimately deliver on the ever-challenging goal of creating a dynamic, interesting, and replayable world that's always been the promise of Stalker, even if none of the games, including the originals, fully delivered on this. This leaves some space to consider other things on my giant list of games to play then, as 2025 kicks off. To start off, thinking of new games, what's the next big release I'm looking forward to now that Stalker 2 is out? While Virtua Fighter 5 coming to Steam in January is pretty big news and definitely on my radar, but overall it's easy to name Monster Hunter Wilds at the top of my list. I checked out the network beta back at the end of October or early November, which was a treat. The performance on PS5s was pretty questionable, at least in performance mode, but that will hopefully be improved. Regardless, the PC version was quite a different experience and felt great technically. I had a blast over a good number of hours fighting through the 4 large monsters in the build, trying the multiplayer options and digging into some weapon specifics across switch axe, bow, gun lance, and sword and shield. I can't wait for the full release slated for the end of February, and will immediately be devoted the majority, if not all, of my attention to it once it's out. But that's a couple of months away, so what else do I want to do? Well, on the retro front, I'd like to do a little prep for Monster Hunter Wilds, something I've wanted to do for quite a while and haven't found the excuse, and that's trying Monster Hunter 1, the original game, on PS2. While I was playing Monster Hunter more than a decade ago now, I still didn't really start until the 3rd generation. I think it'll be interesting to fill in the gaps I have around the series' earliest entries. I'm not sure what to expect from it, but probably something pretty opaque, grueling, certainly lacking the flash and quality of life improvements from the more recent entries. I probably won't go too deep with it. I'll have to see how it feels, but I'd really like to check it out nonetheless. Beyond that, I'd also like to revisit both Eco and Shadow of the Colossus in their original PS2 forms. I'd already been thinking about this for some reason before the Game Awards in early December. I was actually wondering if we might finally get a chance to see the new game this creator, Fumito Ueda, has been working on. It's been announced for a long time that his studio, Gen Design, has been working on something. Much to my surprise, it actually happened. Sadly, it was much more of a teaser than a full trailer, but what we saw of Project Robot was striking and highlighted by a familiar tone and visual style. I was certainly excited and can't wait to learn more. I only hope it won't take years for that to happen like it did with his most recent game. I haven't played Eco or Colossus in well over a decade, and I'd already been thinking it was high time to run through them again and see if they still resonate with me as much as they did when they first released. This would also lead nicely into playing The Last Guardian, which I never have. Saying that out loud, I'm not quite sure how it's true. Last Guardian took a long time to release, and when it did, I think it just happened to be quite a busy time of life, and I wasn't able to devote enough attention to it. It's high time I give it a try, even if my impression is that it's the least revered of the trilogy. I guess all of these games probably qualify as retro too, being PS2 and PS3 titles, as does the final idea I want to mention. 2024 saw the well-received release of the Silent Hill 2 remake. Silent Hill 2 is a game I remember very fondly, even if at this point I don't remember many specifics. I think it may have been the first game I had on PS2 when I got the console a year or so into its life cycle. That first cutscene in the rest stop bathroom with James looking in the mirror. Like so many other players, I didn't realize at first when the cutscene ended and gameplay had begun. At the time, the graphics were jaw-dropping. The game was atmospheric with an evocative story that I'd like to experience again to refresh my memory, before maybe trying the remake sometime in 2025. I also never played the director's cut or Restless Dreams version of the game that has a small additional playable episode. In looking into how best to get a hold of that version of the game, I came across the Enhanced Edition mod for the PC version, which looks like a fantastic way to go back and play the original. Additionally, the original PC version of the game is abandoned at this point and freely available. That's already quite a list, at least for me, and I don't want to get myself underwater with plans. None of these games are huge, so I'm hopeful I'll be able to make good progress on these before Monster Hunter's release. I might even try to slip in Astrobot, given the praise it's gotten this year, to play something more recent. I think in particular it might be a nice change of pace, and also not too long. To close this out, I wanted to make one prediction, maybe more of a wish, for 2025. Now that we've seen Ueda's next project, and the new Virtua Fighter is officially announced, what's left that I'd be really excited to hear about? For one, Bloodborne. One of my favorite From Software games. It's coming up on its 10th anniversary in March. After not even mentioning the game for years, Sony actually included it in their recent PlayStation 30th anniversary video. After all this time, that seems ill-advised if something, a game specifically, isn't actually in the works. Who knows, but I think and hope we'll see something for Bloodborne this year. And just for fun, as a quick secondary mention, Metal Gear Solid is a series I dream of having the time to properly revisit from start to finish someday, even though I've played them all. Despite owning a disc for Guns of the Patriots, I don't really have a great way to revisit it since my PS3's PSU died years ago. Here's hoping that with Konami doing re-releases, we get a better way to access that one. I think we will. That'll wrap things up for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider commenting, subscribing, and hitting that thumbs up or down on the video. And until next time, take care.